Good morning, NACADA.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming here today. I greatly appreciate you coming here. Hopefully you're here for this session that you see on the wall in front of you, the board in front of you. If so, that means we're all here at the right time, the right place, fully present, ready to go forward. My name is Joseph Croskey, and I'm currently the advisor, the academic counselor really, for the TRIO Upward Bound program. Any TRIO people in here? A couple, all right. All right, I was EOP prior to that, and I was director of our advising center prior to this position. As a director of advising, I advised online students, I advised undecided students, at-risk students, and as you all know, all those students who decide just to come in because the services are good. And so that's a little bit of my background. One thing I'd like to share with you though is that I began a PhD program not too long ago, and I had some questions I had asked of me of the professor in our first class. And some of those questions will be answered today as we go through the presentation. But let me just get a quick survey. How many people were drawn to this presentation because of the word mindfulness? Who was curious? All right. How many because of authentic advising? Not as many. And what I've found, you know, I've really been fascinated by human development all of my life. I liked lifting weights when I was young. In college, I took that to the next level, and I competed in powerlifting and set state records and went to the national competition. After that, I got interested in fitness, and I stayed involved and ran a marathon not too long ago. But all that to say that I've also been involved or interested in things that have to do with meditation or mindfulness. Most of my adult life, I've practiced centering prayer, which is a Christian contemplative practice, and always was curious about mindfulness. And so when that teacher said, "What are you going to write for your dissertation?" and I wasn't really sure, I just, like most of us, what do we do when we have a question today? We Google it, right? So I Googled it, and I came up with this topic, mindfulness. And I wasn't at the time aware of mindfulness, but I did this search recently, again, mindfulness, and this is what you see on the board here, what the results were. But what I found when I did that first search on meditation was a presentation by Jon Kabat-Zinn at Google. Google invites a number of luminaries to speak to their employees, and I happened to find this, or his talk, when I did that search. And so I started delving a little bit deeper. You know, I have to write this dissertation. And so one of the first articles I found, and you see on the board there by Hall in the 90s, was the effect of meditation on African American students. I said, I am in the right place. If I found this article, I must be on the right track. And like I said, I'm really passionate about trying to do things to serve our students and help our students. And so I thought that this might provide an avenue for us to do that. As I dove deeper into it, I found that Jon Kabat-Zinn is the most widely cited person because he's done the most research and created mindfulness-based stress reduction programs for education, for medical offices, for a whole host of problems that people have. MBSR has served to help them. And so that's the definition that we're going to use for mindfulness today. And so it involves us being right here, right now, and also being kind to ourselves. Jon Kabat-Zinn is like the rock star of mindfulness today. You can find his information anywhere, and because he's like the rock star, he talks about mindfulness in ways that are both for academics and for us common lay people, I guess, so to speak. But mindfulness generally, it involves both concentration, which is a type of meditation, and acceptance. So it's the ability to pay attention to your thoughts and the sensations in your body without judgment. It takes a lot of practice to be comfortable with it. There are a lot of resources out there. Because he's the rock star, Oprah's got him on her webpage, and in the handouts, if you were able to get those, I included them, but also you can download my PowerPoint, and the links are there to Oprah's website for things about Jon Kabat-Zinn, as well as you can go to his website too. Some of the benefits they found with mindfulness include these. And so you have to ask yourself, if you had these qualities, a better well-being, physical health, and mental health, would you be a better advisor? And that's what I started asking myself. If I use these practices and I got these results, like other people have gotten these results, would I be better at the work that I'm doing? And it turns out I wasn't the only one asking those questions. And what was curious to me is I also found some information about how many people are familiar with emotional intelligence. So we won't go really deep into that today because a lot of you are familiar. The seminal research was done by Salovey and Mayer and popularized by Goleman. He's a very excellent writer, and so if you're curious about the topic, check out Goleman's books, but there are now hundreds of books and hundreds of research studies on emotional intelligence. And so if you ask yourself, if you were able to be, like it says here in the definition, aware of your own feelings and aware of students' feelings, would you be a better advisor if you did have that level of information about yourself and that level of information and knowledge about the people sitting across the table from you? What if you could remain more calm and confident in a crisis? All these things would help you to be a better advisor. Excuse me, I looked into authentic leadership and it caught my attention because right now it's still just being developed and there are three different proponents of it. One is from the interpersonal perspective, one is from the intrapersonal perspective, and another is from the developmental perspective based on what I've read in the Nordhaus book. And so I thought that there would be a lot of promise there because of how it intersected with the emotional intelligence time frame, or excuse me, the emotional intelligence conceptions. And so if, like this survey says, if you're able to do all those things, then I think that you'll have a better presence with your students. You'll be better able to lead them to discover what's inside of themselves. And speaking of inside of yourself, most of the information that I'm going to cover today, I'm going to go over pretty quickly. You can find it all in this book by Ming. Ming is the person in the center picture there. He worked at Google, and he was one of the senior engineers when Google went public. So that meant what? He had a lot of money. So he found himself in a position where he didn't really have to work. And so since he didn't have to work, he thought, what can I do with my life? What is my purpose? And it hit him. What he wanted to do was to bring world peace. He wanted to create the conditions for world peace. And so he started looking into how he might accomplish that as a Google engineer. Because of the people he networked with, he met with thought leaders, Dan Goleman, Philip Golden, in terms of neuroscience, who talked about the science behind how your brain works. He met with peace leaders, Thich Nhat Hanh. He met with compassionate warriors like Mirabai Bush. All these people he worked with to develop this program that he's been doing at Google for the last 4 years now. And so because he's been doing this program at Google, he's been able to develop it and create this book that he's sharing with the rest of the world. And now this organization that he's created, Silly, he's got a real good sense of humor. Silly, Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, has a number of videos that also provide training as well as this book. And so all of these things started to lead me to this idea about authentic advising. George, who's one of the proponents of authentic advising, describes someone who's an authentic leader as someone who knows their true north, someone who, he's also developed a book on that, but someone whose practices enable them to help other people be all that they can be. Because when we're living on purpose, when we know our purpose and we help others to know our purpose, then I believe that miracles can happen. And so I invite you to come along with me as we journey down this path on authentic advising to see where it might take us. Because it's all about this, knowing yourself, being authentic, and being able to be present with what's with you at the time.